Welcome to the Seize the Day weekly podcast, your connection to all things cruising, powered by Travel with Brigitte.
And I'm Julie Williams, along with Travel with Brigitte cruise expert Karla Meza on the Seize the Day cruise show. Today, we're going to look at 10 things you might not know about cruising. Karla, welcome to the show. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you too.
The first thing on our list of 10 shouldn't have shocked me, but it kind of did. Hidden cameras in your cabin. Think about that, Karla. You turn on your TV and then it watches you. I mean,
yeah, it's something most people don't think about, but it is, what a lot of technology is capable of. I'm going to say that we're going to safely assume that these cameras aren't on because you have, one of two scenarios. One, it could be something someone left behind, and maybe it is on, maybe it is like some type of, strange spy device. But sometimes these cruise lines, they actually do have technology or devices installed with these because they use them for marketing and for, other filming ventures that they have for the ship. It's not necessarily to watch, the passengers, but it's still something to be aware of and to be conscious of because there are chances that it could be there. And it is very unsettling when you kind of just see it out of the corner of your eye.
Yeah, if they're not watching the passengers, why would they have it in while the passengers are in the cabin? I mean, that is a little bit concerning. And I want to mention this is not widespread. Okay, it's happened a few times. Florida couple found a camera behind their TV in their cabin. Carnival says, yes, it was a video transmitter, but it wasn't active, which, that makes sense to me. And it's not like everybody was saying it. So it could have been something that somebody left behind. So a lot of people do what they call the 60-second sweep. They go through and just kind of check for cameras.
Yeah, that's really smart. Like I said, it could be something that someone left behind. It could be something that, even maybe the cruise line team left behind for marketing materials. Sometimes they put things in like strange places so that they can get like angle shots for like the staterooms and things like that.
Well, I also hear that online you can get like for $20 a camera detector. And I don't know anything about them. This is just something that I heard that they're pretty small and only $20, and you could go in and detect cameras, and if you're so inclined, I mean, you could do it anywhere. But I'm just spouting off. I don't know anything about those.
Yeah, there's definitely devices like that. How well they work, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what they use to be able to detect cameras. But it's definitely out there for people that, are weary of that. It's not just your cruise, it could be hotel rooms. It could even be, like sometimes even restrooms, public restrooms, people get nervous about things like that. So use cases for devices like that. I just don't know exactly how they work. I've never used one myself.
Right. I've heard about them in hotel rooms and Airbnbs. So to hear about it in a cruise ship, it shouldn't be shocking because they can be anywhere. Okay, here's another one, Karla. The air quality in your cabin is recycled.
So especially, you think about all the interior cabins and, the lower decks and stuff. And there's no real way for fresh air to come through or to, you have your rooms with balconies and that probably helps. You might get, 10% of your air is fresh air circulating through windows and, passages once doors are open to the inside. But the reality of it is this is an enclosed ship. And just like being on an airplane, it's kind of just going through the vents and recycling. And that is how it goes. It's a very large ship, a very large portion of it that's completely closed and has no access to fresh, open, outdoor air. So yes, it is recycled air.
If you do have a balcony, then, I would suggest you do open the doors, for a little bit to kind of air it out a little bit. But to get full circulation, you would have to open the front door as well. And you don't want to do that. That's against the rules. It's sometimes on some ships will turn off your air conditioning. And it's also, it can be a dangerous thing. It's like, what do they call it? A wind tunnel?
especially on like stormy sea days, like you just don't want to. Also, totally aside from what we're talking about, but even just a quick tip, like some people, they think, oh, I'm going to leave my balcony door while I'm gone. It'll be nice and fresh when I get back. Don't do that. You don't ever want to do that.
No. And I've done that before, but I didn't know better. I'll have to just give myself that credit, because I like the fresh air. I mean, if it were allowed,
Yeah.
I would sleep out on the balcony. It's not allowed, but I would sleep out on the
No,
balcony.
it's not allowed.
Another option is to bring a small air purifier, but full disclosure, I have a small one that's about, and I've got it sitting next to me, and it's about 8 or 9 inches by, say, 6 inches. And so it's pretty portable, but it doesn't work very well. And then I have another one that's about 2.5 feet tall that works great, and it cools off the space and everything. But I mean, to carry that on an airplane or on a cruise ship, it'd be a little cumbersome. Plus, they get a little picky about what you're allowed to plug in. And who knows where the air filter would turn up on that.
Yeah, it's definitely, you never know if it's actually going to be allowed. There are devices out there. I know people do that sometimes. Again, same thing. I've never used one, so I couldn't speak to how well it works. You're saying you have a smaller one and you can tell that it doesn't work as well as a full size one. But I know what some people do too. They just bring at least portable fans just to kind of at least keep the circulation going in their room, just so it doesn't feel stagnant. And just you don't have a lot of reason to stay in your room that much. There's plenty of things to do out on the top decks, and or just stepping out just to get some fresh air for a few minutes and then heading back to a restaurant, casino, or what have you.
We're making cruising sound bad. I mean, you might be watched and the air quality is stagnant, and
And that's what I was gonna say too. Like, air filters work so well. Like, I have one at home that I can't live without. Like, I need it because I'm allergic to my pet's dander and all of that, and I do what I have to do. But if I'm going to be gone for 3-4 days, maybe in a week, and I don't, I'll survive without it. I'll live for those few days. But it's still just good to know, because some people may have other issues that they're like, no, actually, I can't survive that way. I do need to, take some precautions.
Yeah. And I imagine you can work something out with the cruise line, just like you can with a CPAP machine or something, I mean, if it's a necessity. Okay. The next one, elevators can be a nightmare on embarkation day, and just embarkation day, but that's another whole story. So what can you do about all those elevators on an embarkation day? Because, you might not want to take the stairs because you're probably got a bunch of carry-on stuff with you.
So you can do one of two things depending on what your goal is. If you're trying to be, some of the first ones out, you don't want to be waiting there all day, then yes, I would say it's going to take a lot of forethought. Try not to have so many carry-on things with you. Think about when you're, purchasing souvenirs or little take-home things. You don't want to have too much on you if you're trying to be the first few people, or at least be out of the ship in the first hour or two. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. On the flip side, if that's not really a worry to you, you can just kind of wait it out. I mean, you definitely have to be out of your room, I think, depending on the cruise line, pretty early in comparison to, what you can, the amount of hours you have to actually disembark the ship. But, sometimes we find a nice spot either out, in the casino or by the pool, again, depending where the cruise line allows you to be on that disembarkation day. But sometimes just accepting that, what, we're going to wait until the crowd dies down and not have such a stressful, exit, that helps a lot as well. So it just depends on what you need that day.
If you put your bags out the night before, so you're not carrying all your bags, just what your necessities will be, and you want to just kind of wait it out, you don't have a flight you have to run to, and you can sit in the buffet, especially after like the crowd passes, and have coffee and just enjoy yourself. And then when you do get off the ship, it's not as chaotic, and you'll find your luggage right away, and you'll probably get through customs pretty quick. I imagine they're tired by then. So, I mean, that's definitely an option. And you will also have an easier time getting the elevator. And if your mobility impaired, they do have elevators for staff and for people who are like elite level and stuff. And a staff member might be able to take you down separately and escort you out on an elevator if you're like in a wheelchair or something. So, definitely ask for help, because
Yes.
they might, I traveled at on one of the higher cabins one time and got basically escorted off the ship at my convenience. I mean, it was magical. It was pretty amazing.
That's a great point. Yes, depending on your tier of, either your like loyalty program or even like your stateroom, you might have early disembarkation. You might have assisted or priority or, something else. So definitely keep that in mind.
And then on embarkation day, ask very nicely, ask a crew member if any of those additional staff elevators are available to the public for the day or till they leave or something, because oftentimes they are. And somebody who's on crew should know. Not everybody knows, so that's why it's a good place to go. But they'd know if they're open and they'd know where they were. And then number 5, price matching after booking. Okay, if you get your own, if you book your own stuff, good luck with that. So even if you are able to price match after the fact, they have programs that can help you with that. You're still going to have to deal with the cruise line, but if you tell your travel agent at the time of booking that you definitely want that done, then that person should get you on the list of prioritarily, I don't know if that's a word, but to make it a priority to check every couple of weeks for you, and then they would cancel and rebook immediately at the lower price. So it is something that's available.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, most of the cruise lines allow for. And yeah, if you're doing it yourself, you just kind of have to, do your due diligence of checking every so often or checking what different promotions they have. If you're booking through a travel agent, which you really, it's the best way to go about it, you just make sure you tell them that that's something you'd like them to be doing, and they should have no problem doing it for you.
We're talking about the 10 things that you might not know about cruising, even if you're a long-time cruiser. By the way, if you have any suggestions, we are all ears. Just post your suggestion or your question below, or if you can think of another scenario, another maybe secret that that most people don't. If you would just write that down and write down what your solution is, that would be awesome. You'd really be doing a service to the rest of our listeners. Karla, what else do you know as a travel agent with Travel with Brigitte that we might not know? Like lunch on embarkation day. I mean, that could be pretty chaotic in the buffet.
Yes. So my advice on that is choosing something else. The lunch buffet is usually going to have such long lines. It's where everyone's going to go first. No one's really in their room. So it's probably going to be the busiest it's going to be the entire time with everyone out on the decks. But if your cruise line or your ship that you're on has, specialty restaurants, or sometimes the dining room is even already open, and it doesn't have to be like, extra paid specialty restaurants. But like, I know when we go on our short trips out of Galveston on Carnival, we always go to like the Guy Fieri's burger stand first. That's like our first stop before we even touch the lunch buffet, which that can have a long line too. But there's so many other options that you can take advantage of on that first meal on that first day, that you're not in the super long buffet line. It's most likely going to be a long line everywhere, but a lot shorter in other areas.
And if you're not like right around the embarkation area, if you were to go to, say, one of the specialty restaurants, they're open, and they might not be booked yet for that time. And I think, and I don't know this because I haven't done it, but I've heard they sometimes have specials for embarkation day.
Yes, sometimes they do. Not just embarkation day, but also because it's so early in the day, sometimes they have like their lunch specials, or their lunch menu is priced differently than their dinner menu.
Yeah. Yeah, and then another thing is a lot of times, the good specialty restaurants will book up from people booking even before they get
Mhm.
on. So if you go on embarkation
Yeah.
day, you can, if you decide you want to go to that sometime, it's best on that very first day to make your reservation, or you might not be able to get a reservation at all. So that's another
Yeah,
thing to
that's
keep in mind. Okay, now this one I didn't know, Carla. I knew Princess had it, but small self-service laundry areas on the ship that you might not even know about.
mhm. Yes, it's a really nice addition, especially when you're going to be on a ship for, maybe 7 days or longer, just to one, not pack so much, or two, just not, come home with a week's laundry. But yes, Princess is pretty known for, having their self-service, but I believe a few other cruise lines are now starting to add that as well. And if they don't have self-service, a lot of them do have some type of laundry service as it is. But it's yeah, it's something that not a lot of people know or people forget about. They don't, see it in the fine print. I do believe that they have soap there for sale, but if you can bring your own, it, even better, even easier. And they're usually on a few decks, so it's not like, oh, there's one facility for the whole ship. It's not really worth my time to go out of my way. Like there's usually, I think, about at least one every other deck or something like that.
Yeah, and the cruise line has laundry services, but you could pay like 30 something bucks for 5 or 6 items and maybe have to give 12 hours notice or something like that. Whereas if you wanted
You
to,
probably
if you're
have to
going
pay
to a,
$30 for 1 or 2 items.
oh, well, that could be. I usually like to do Princess and go do my own laundry, and I bring my own laundry detergent. But a lot of times they're not going to
Exactly.
advertise this. It's not going to be in your daily schedule or on your app because they'd rather you
Right, right.
buy the services from them. So, but if you ask someone,
Mhm.
ask your cabin steward because they really are there to serve you, not to serve the cruise line. I mean, that's the attitude
Right,
of
right.
the a good cabin steward, and they usually will do what's in your best interest. Okay, unlucky deck 14. You usually hear that with deck 13, but I don't know if ships have a deck 13.
They usually don't. No, no, very similar to hotels, they usually won't. Well, that's usually where the outside decks start. So that's where you're probably going to start to either have like your pool or the buffet, restaurants, the gym, the spa. And the reason that they're considered unlucky is because if you happen to, get like a guaranteed cabin or a cabin where you didn't decide where on the ship it is and it was chosen for you, aka a leftover cabin, more the chances are you can be under the unlucky cabin, meaning a lot more noise, a lot more foot traffic going on, usually higher up as well. If you kind of get motion sickness, you're more prone to feel the motion a little higher up as well. So those are some of the things behind calling the deck unlucky. It really just depends on your preferences. I know for some younger people or some people with a lot of young children, they actually don't mind it just because it's closer to everything that they're going to be doing most of the time, or again, not spending so much time in their room and spending time in those areas. But, for someone that's looking for a little bit of a slower vacation and wants to sleep in and maybe take a nap throughout the day. Well, if you're taking a nap at 2 o'clock and you have all these, children jumping in and out of the pool, might not be as relaxing as you thought.
That's right. You're in a 14. Every ship is different, but in 14, you're likely to be
Yeah, yeah,
right under the gym or right under the pool or the buffet out by the pool. Maybe some bands are doing sound checks, and you're trying to
yes.
sleep in.
You have all the activities during the day. They, especially around the pool, you usually have someone out there with a microphone doing, different contests, getting people involved. So yeah, there could be a lot of noise pollution.
So, what cabin should we choose? I mean, what guidelines should we go by
There's
while
really
choosing our cabin?
there's a lot of different things that go into where you would want your cabin. The first thing I think of when people are asking me is, okay, how do you do with motion sickness? How do you do with noise and light and air? Do you need a balcony to have that fresh air coming in? But I would generally say, like for me personally, I don't get motion sickness that badly, but I don't like to feel the motion too much, because what I don't like is when I'm post cruise and I'm in my regular day to day and I still feel like I'm moving. I don't know if anyone else ever gets that, but I do. And so that's my thought process on it. So I prefer the very center of the ship, and I don't mind being close to elevators. I know some people really do mind that because they don't want all to hear all the foot traffic and all the extra noise, but I don't like to walk for 20 rooms down a hallway. That almost scares me a little bit. So my sweet spot is maybe like 5 to 7 rooms down from an elevator in the middle of the ship, deck 8, deck 9, somewhere in there where I'm not too far from everything, but I'm low enough that I shouldn't have too much going on my deck either, because sometimes the casino like can be even lower down. Usually the casino is almost like a deck 5.
Yeah, it's good to not be so far away that the stairs would be exhausting for you every time you want to take it.
Yeah, exactly. That too. Because I take the stairs probably 50, 60% of the time, because I'm not going to sit there and wait for 3 elevators to go up and down with the amount of people that are trying to get to and from wherever they're going. So yeah, those are my thoughts on where I choose a cabin.
So here's one thing that I never knew, and I've been cruising for decades, and this is very nice to know. You know how the line is sometimes you're just exhausted when you're waiting on a tender because they can't go all the way in port. So you've got to have the tender to take you over to the port, which for those of you who don't know, that's a small boat transportation, and they have a few going, and you basically are standing in line for a long time. But you can get priority boarding on tenders where if you're a senior or have mild mobility issues, if you decide to contact somebody and have them escort you, usually in the first group, down to the tender, especially if you are someone who has might have trouble physically boarding the boat, like stepping from
Yes.
a landing down into an unstable, and they'll of course help you, but it's nice to not be making a crowd wait. And it's hard then if you can't do that, it's going to be hard to stand in line. So how do we work that out?
Yeah, so not just for the tenders, but even, an embarkation day, you don't if you have mobility issues, if you have a bad knee, it doesn't even have to be something where you're specifically like handicapped, but like if you have mobility issues, even in the slightest, you can ask for that assistance and they will provide it. And when you're doing that, you can also, you can ask whether or not things are going to be tendered, and that same service will be provided for the tendered as well. So you just have to let them know that you'd like that for that day as well. And they will facilitate, with you what time you need to be down there and when they get you on the tendered boat. If it's something that you didn't think of prior for embarkation day, or you didn't feel like you needed it, and now you do feel like you needed it for the tendered boat, you should be able to, go up to customer service throughout the day, or even, if you need to ask your stateroom attendant, they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Right. And if you can, it's always best to ask for mobility priority the day before, like go to customer service or,
Yes.
ask the cabin attendant or something the day before. But I mean, if you can't, you can't. And then the last one that you may not know about, and we touched on this a little bit, sometimes, depending on availability, the specialty restaurants will have half price on port days because most people are
Yes. On
out
port days.
on excursions and stuff, so they have less demand on that day. How do you arrange that? And is there anything we need to know?
Yeah, so that is best to either, go the day before. Sometimes not necessarily on the first day. They might not be promoting that yet. But if you go like the day before a port day, kind of ask them about it. They should know already, if not even the day of, the morning of. You can ask and get reservations. Um, but it's also not just the specialty restaurants. It's a lot of the paid services on the ship. So even like the spa. Sometimes the spa will also have port day deals for that same reason you said, it's not as busy on the ship, but sometimes there are some people that prefer to stay. And, in order to try to get some of that business, they do a lot of deals on port days.
Karla, is there anything that I didn't think of that you can think of that is something that is really a lot of people don't know about cruising that would be really helpful that you can add?
I think you covered everything. I'm really curious to see if anyone else has anything to share in the comments, though.
That's right. Be sure to share your ideas below. And of course, like, subscribe, and share this podcast if you don't mind. Until next time, we're Karla and Julie, encouraging you to seize the day.
You've been listening to the Seize the Day podcast, powered by Travel with Brigitte. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And as always, feel free to ask us anything in the comments section. We love to hear from you. Or email us at bookings@travelwithbrigitte.com. Till next time, seize the day.